So let's begin empathy as a powerful leadership tool. And my name is Janice Klen, and I will be your facilitator today, talking about empathy as a powerful leadership tool. Just a brief agenda for what an overview of our content. So we'll define empathy. We'll look at empathy as an emotional intelligence competency. We will look at empathy as a key to leadership performance. There is so much research out there that provides the evidence that empathy is a key to peak performance. We want to look at ways you can strengthen your empathy. This is a learned competency. And then we will open it up to hear from you. What have been your experiences of being empathetic or of receiving someone's empathy? How's it impacted your work as leaders? So we'll engage in some conversation through our chat. We'll look at leadership styles of connection versus control, and have a takeaway for all of you. And I have some resources. I am happy to, if this is helpful, to share this PowerPoint with you if that you find that useful. Okay, so let's move on and go to, see if I can get this moved up here. There we go. Okay, so empathy defined. Empathy is the ability to experience, relate to thoughts, emotions, and experience of others. It's being a highly empathetic person is having an insatiable curiosity. The curiosity expands our empathy when we talk to people outside our own social circles. So, we want to explore, we want to learn about other people's experiences. Martin Seligman, who is the sort of called the happiness guru, he is a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and he identifies empathy as a key character strength that can enhance life satisfaction and ultimately our work satisfaction as well. So empathy is so much more than simple sympathy. Empathy is sort of walking in people's shoes, to really have the ability to experience what they're experiencing, whereas sympathy is more supporting with compassion and sensitivity. So there is a difference there. Okay. All right, let me change this slide. There we go. Okay. So emotional intelligence, as we said, empathy is one of the emotional intelligence competencies. These are learned competencies. We can all continue to learn to build our emotional intelligence for the rest of our lives. As you see here, these are sort of 4 categories of emotional intelligence, which the self-awareness, understanding your own feelings and behaviors. Self-management or self-regulation is to be able to manage, to stay cool under pressure, to really manage those feelings and behaviors, and to stay motivated despite setbacks and obstacles, which adds up to some resilience there to be able to bounce back. Social awareness, understanding what others feel, and relationship management, building rapport, collaborating with others, building trust. These are all the components of emotional intelligence. Empathy is a huge part of emotional intelligence and one of the competencies. So another habit of highly empathetic people is to challenge prejudices and discover commonalities. We all make assumptions about others and use collective labels. We're human, we do that, even if we think we don't. So what we want to do as people that challenge prejudices and discover commonalities is to recognize those, to be self-aware of those labels that society puts on people, and we want to prevent, and it prevents us from appreciating individuality. So we are going to sort of be self-aware about that. Okay, and let me just move this one. Okay. So a few quotes on empathy, which I really do love, is the wonderful Maya Angelou. I think we all have empathy, but we may not have enough courage to display it. It does take courage because, especially as leaders, often we have the idea that leaders are to be always looking sort of in control and decisive, and so having empathy and being able to almost show our own vulnerability, as you know, Brene Brown and all her great concepts and work that she's done, her research, that takes some courage to do that, especially as a leader. But when you show that empathy, when you show your ability to even be vulnerable, that builds trust. And as a leader, that's an invaluable competence, or invaluable to have among your staff, is to have that trust. And also Samantha Power, who I also have great respect for. All advocacy is at its core an exercise in empathy. So you all as VISTA leaders and VISTAs out in your communities doing such amazing work, that think of empathy as part of your advocacy work. It is inseparable. So that is really something to think about. And I have a Native American proverb, too, that I really like in showing what empathy is. Walk a mile in another man's moccasins before you criticize him. Again, that level of depth that empathy goes to in order to truly have that competency. Okay. All right. Another term that I found was a Zulu greeting. It's called Sabona, and that Sabona means I see you. Again, trying to make that distinction between what empathy is and what sympathy is. The really I see you is such a deep level. Okay. All right, so competency of empathy is understanding. Just as important to understanding is equally as important as to being understood. The same with listening, other people's ideas. Giving respect is important as receiving it. It's all about building a culture of empathy and a culture of equality. This is about equality. My feelings are just as valid as your feelings. This is our common humanity. So it's really, really important. Another habit of highly competent people, empathetic people, is to listen hard and open up. Master the art of radical listening. What is essential? This comes from Marshall Rosenberg, who I've done a lot of research on, and he is founder of Nonviolent Communications. And he talks about our own ability to be present for what's really going on as a critical leadership capacity. So be present for what's really going on and what's really going on within, to our unique feelings and needs, to be able to experience what that person is experiencing in that very moment, Okay, so this is just pretty simple, the bridges between my understanding, our understanding, and yours. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Let's see here. Okay. So if you want to influence people, of which that's also a part of leadership, you need to understand empathetically the power of their point of view. as a leader, you need to build, look at all the work you do with your vistas. You need to build a high-performing team. In order to do that, you have to be able to understand how strongly they feel about their own point of view and be able to capture that and to, that force of those points of view to be able to work collaboratively, all part of outstanding leadership. Now, also this ability to influence people, when we think of another habit of highly empathetic people, another habit is inspiring mass action and social change. Look at what is happening with our students with this gun violence. They are starting a movement. Their hearts have been broken. They have felt for themselves and their peers what has happened, and have walked in their shoes, and now they're starting this whole social movement. So this is phenomenal, and this is what creates social change. There is actually a lot of empathy as far as in schools, starting with children's education, to start in schools, teaching children empathy. Very critical, especially for our future leaders. So I'm going to I would like to hear from you. This is some research for you to test your own emotional intelligence and your own empathy. There are two places where you can do that, but I'd like to open it up to all of you that are on the call to ask about your own experience being an empathetic leader, or if you've known and been inspired by an empathetic leader. And could you just share some thoughts about that experience, how it impacted you, how it inspired you? Please take some time to chat with your colleagues in the chat function, please. Any thoughts? Any experiences? Well, there's Katie. So any thoughts? Want to put in the chat, if you would? A leader who inspires me is Bell Hooks. Oh, absolutely. Mariah, oh, nice to have you on. Welcome. Yes, Bell Hooks is so inspiring. Let's think about some other leaders who have inspired us with their ability to be empathetic, all this emotional intelligence. Yes, she's amazing. I love her books. Hope that I also empathetic. Didn't agree on things. Okay. But I appreciated seeing her effort in getting to know me and what I needed. That's a great example, because as leaders, it doesn't mean being empathetic means you will always agree with everyone. That's not the point. The point is to be able to understand the power of someone's point of view and to include that and to learn from it. We're all teachers and learners, regardless of what our position is. Desmond Tutu, another one. Thank you. Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou. These are all people that, thank you. Maya Angelou, Desmond Tutu, just wonderful, wonderful examples of being able to be empathetic and to use that power to actually create social movements and to, advance the ability to be an emotional, intelligent leader. So thank you for those comments. I appreciate that. And keep them coming. Please just feel free to keep chatting with your colleagues. Okay, so these are two ways you can take a quiz. Okay, and these are some of the samples of the questions that you understand your feelings, understand how other people's experiences affect their feelings, understand your own leadership strengths and weaknesses. It always starts with us. And being able to describe your own feelings of happiness, sad, angry, frustration. You know, what is that? And here we have another chat I would like to ask what they need from me. Absolutely. Samantha, that's great because it absolutely is about asking, you know, seeking input from your, you know, your vistas. What does it mean? What do you need? Disaster recovery. We wanted to help survivors, but it was outside the job description. So he said, don't let me catch you. Oh, okay. Getting your job done, laugh out loud. Okay. Absolutely. You know, that was an ability to go outside boundaries in an effort to help those that needed it. And okay, touche for that. That was great. All right, so these are, again, some more questions, and you can look at these resources and take these quizzes because it does help you think about it. You know, it helps you really to sort of assess where you stand. Okay, and please keep the chat coming along. Thank you. So strategies to strengthen empathy, because as we said, this is a learned competence. And so to think about, you know, what you want to do to strengthen your empathy, listening is essential. You know, the Swahutu saying of I see you, to be able to really see a person, hear a person. What are their words saying? What's their body language saying? Okay, so it's not, you know, we communicate in various ways, and to reflect back, let people know, yes, I am listening. In my other life, other than training vistas in AmeriCorps members and nonprofits, I do a lot of coaching. And so I do leadership coaching and life coaching, and a lot of it is to be able to mirror back what that person has said, or to be like a laser focus on this person, to offer them total presence. That makes people feel heard, feel understood. That builds trust. That shows that you are capable of empathy and understanding their where they are at. So that's all very, very good. Okay, just catching up here on my. All right, so let's see some more. Of course, effective listening is critical. It's essential. Another, some more ways to strengthen your capacity to empathize. Again, this, and from Jeff, knowledge without application is useless. Practice empathy and listening. Jeff, absolutely. This is a practice. This is a learned competency. We have to be able to practice this. And will we always be perfect? No. This is a lifelong, ongoing lesson in building empathy and in strengthening your own leadership. So some other thoughts about strengthening your capacity to empathize. Be quiet inside and out. The more you can quiet, you know, we have that inner dialogue that we're always listening to. And the more you can quiet that so that you can truly hear your own wisdom and someone else's. And again, meditation and mindfulness, you've all heard a lot about those things. They are now using it in Google, Apple, all the high-tech companies. They use it at Target, General Mills. All major companies are using mindfulness and meditation as a way to quiet the mind in order to build empathy, to strengthen leadership, to be able to really listen. And this is how you build your team, and you create a vision where everyone wants to create that vision together. So meditation, also stop your activity, focus on your breath. These are kind of things that help calm your own inner self so that you can truly listen and be present for someone else. Watch as well as listen. We talked about body language. Okay. And again, strengthening this capacity is about, making sure you know what you are feeling. A lot of times we need to sort of take a breath and get in touch with our own emotional awareness. Okay, this will help you empathize with others if you know what you're feeling right now. If you can reflect, again, another just amazing and critical leadership skill is the ability to reflect and step back. So these are all part of this. Another one is identify where you're in your body, where your emotions appear. You can feel it if it's in your chest, in your throat, the back of your neck, are you clenching your fist? What does your body language say? That sort of conveys where you're at as well. So we want to make sure we are, doing that self-awareness reflection. Okay? All right. Okay, so now leadership is shifting. You've heard a lot about leadership being more collaborative, being leaders as being followers as well as leaders, so that they are an integral part of the team, that they listen to their team, that they can work together as a collaboration. That's all part of this leadership shift toward a more team-focused, more collaborative, more emotional intelligence culture. Building an emotional intelligence culture is critical. So the nature of leadership is shifting. Greater emphasis on building and maintaining relationships. Without the relationships that you build, relationships of trust, which is where the empathy comes in, it is very challenging to lead other vistas, to lead staff, to lead your nonprofit, to lead your foundation, whatever you're going to do after your Vista leadership is completed. You must build that trust and that deep relationship, because then, when you work at doing that, the results will be profound. You will have evidence-based results that are positive. And we live in a world where everything is evidence-based, but you still have to put in the time and energy for the empathy, for the relationship building that will equal peak performance. The research is clear. So leaders today, as it says here, need to be person-focused and be able to work with those, not just in the next cubicle or in other buildings, but in other countries around the world. We are in a global community. So this is essential. So one of the things about the global community, in order to be successful in this 21st century, it requires teamwork. We can't do it alone. It requires teamwork. So this, in this age of empathy, you have to create a new kind of cultural revolution, if you will, a revolution that's built on human relationships. So this culture of empathy, this is essential to build relationships and build those, that revolution of human relationships. That is where leadership is. That is the 21st century leadership that we want to see, and that we see, and that is growing constantly. Okay. Questions, comments, please chime in here. Any other thoughts about, maybe when you have been working with your vistas? What other experiences have you had? You've shared some things, but there's a lot of folks on here, so please add some more comments to the chat. I'd love to have this be interactive, so please add your voice. Okay, connection versus control. We talked about that leadership shift, but the pull of connecting to others, the emotional intelligence, the empathy, the building trust, connecting to others, building those relationships is far more powerful than the push to control. You know, you may be able to push to control for one or two tasks on your to-do list, but that is it. You know, when you put in the time and energy to build the relationships, you have people, your staff, your vistas invested. They are invested in you. They are invested in the mission. And so that is the long-term sustainability and power of being an empathetic leader. So connection versus control. So even when we have authority, our power doesn't go very far without others. Believing that we want them to do what we want them to do is in their best interest. And Jeff is saying teamwork essential leads to positive outcomes. Yes, Jeff, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're not in this alone. We are interdependent. We are better together. We cannot, we need to let people know that when we want them to do what's in their best interest so they feel invested. Our ability to empathize deepens with practice as we learn to quiet our own inner state and to be able to be there for others. So I love this quote by Gwendolyn Baker. She says, leadership is not about power. It's about success at getting people to move with you for the good of the cause. That's very cool. I love that. Right. Okay, so empathy, again, as I said, critical skill for effective leadership, and the most important reason is trust. Now, Katie is saying, I disengage with leaders who push to control. Yes, absolutely, Katie. It does not, you know, it does not feel good to be controlled and to have leaders that are authoritarian and that just demand things. It doesn't work. You know, it may in the short term, but for the long term, to be a very high impactful leader, you need to connect with others and develop others. It's like a leader needs to be a coach as well as a leader. So thank you for your comment there. So when you show you're aware of your staff's feelings and appreciate those feelings, even when you don't agree with them, it builds trust. So as one of you, I forget your name, I apologize, talked about that even though you didn't agree with your supervisor or another, that is just, that's okay. That's okay. But it still is a matter of appreciating those feelings and honoring people's feelings. So great stuff here. Thank you. All right. So yeah, Center for Creative Leadership is they're very highly regarded throughout the world, actually, and they did a lot of analyzed a lot of data from, as you can see here, 6,731 managers in many countries around the world. And empathy is, their key findings over and over is empathy is positively related to job performance. You can't do it alone as a leader. You need your people to perform. And in order to do that, you have to build the competencies of empathy and the competencies of emotional intelligence. So the Center for Creative Leadership has shown the nature of leadership is shifting to put a greater emphasis, as we said before, on building and maintaining relationships. Leaders now need to lead people and collaborate with others to be able to cross organizational and cultural boundaries, and need to create shared directions, alignment, and commitment between social groups with very different histories, perspectives, and values. It stands to reason that empathy would go a long way in doing that. So that's where we are now in this 21st century, so efforts in leading. Okay, so A few more thoughts reiterated here about strengthening empathy. And again, it starts with you understand your own needs and interests, to really reflect on what do you really want and why, to become the other, to see through their eyes, think with their mind, sense its patterns, consider what is truly in their interests, and then go from there, show how your idea is in their interest, either directly or through an exchange you offer. Okay. And this, of course, as Jeff already said, takes practice. It takes practice. Okay. So strategies to strengthen empathy, another very important one. Remember, one of the first ones was to be a radical listener, to truly listen. And also, this is another key to strengthen empathy, and a very important one is to ask questions, to be curious, to sort of try to know the other person's story. You know, ask questions. That helps you get that person is engaged and delighted when you ask questions of what they want, what do they need, what has been their history, what's their story. So to listen and practice empathy, you have to ask great questions of ourselves and others. That curiosity is essential. Okay. So the results of increasing empathy and other emotional intelligence competencies is lower stress, helps you achieve higher career achievement, because as we said, we're not in this alone, and have greater satisfaction in relationships. Now, how do you begin? Let's think of, okay, we're getting to the end of our conversation here, and we're thinking, okay, we've heard a lot of stuff. We agree empathy is important for high-performance leadership. So how do we, what's the takeaway? So here are some thoughts, and then I'm going to open it up to you to listen to what might be some thoughts that you might take away from this. And one is to start small and expand. Don't all of a sudden, overwhelm yourself. Take small steps. Just start with one or two people and ask some questions. Just get started. Be open and curious. Unlearn old emotional patterns, learn new ones. With that self-awareness and with self-compassion, you can start to understand your own triggers that might cause you to not be able to empathize. So again, that self-awareness is critical. And when you fail, again, practice self-compassion, learn and move on. That's a piece of resilience training. I do a webinar on resilience as well. That's usually well received, because resilience is also a critical leadership skill. Practice being in the moment. Oh, and one other, cultivate awareness and observation, mindfulness. I can't emphasize enough how mindfulness and meditation, and mindfulness can be 3 minutes. It does not have to be, 20 minutes a day. If you want to explore this, go to YouTube and look up Jon Kabat-Zinn at Google, and he does a 10-minute meditation with Google folks, and it's quite profound. And he's an MIT scientist. Mindfulness is now in all hospitals. It's becoming just all over in children's schools to try and teach kids about mindfulness and empathy. Headspace, great mindfulness. Thank you, Trevor. Yes, I have that on mine too. Great resource, Headspace. But it's critical, and it doesn't have to be long. But that's important, so critically important. So that helps you practice being in the moment. If you take some moments to be mindful, to meditate for 3 to 5 minutes, and practice loving kindness, compassion, gratitude, appreciation. My daughter and I have started a practice of every day, at the end of the day, just take a few minutes to say 3 things we're grateful for, and we just text each other. It takes a few minutes, but it changes your attitude. It changes your worldview. It just makes you appreciative and feeling kindness and gratitude. Oh, mental fitness. Okay. Thank you. Mental fitness, another resource for us. Thank you so much. Mindfulness and resilience. Oh, I love that combination. It's awesome. I do a lot of work in both, so that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. So we're whipping through our work here. Okay, resources. So we have a couple more resources: the mental fitness, Headspace. So if I can, I'd like to open it up to all of you now. Let's share some more resources because these are awesome. I have Headspace down in mental fitness, and then more comments about where do you think you stand as your own ability to empathize. You know, do some reflection or share what your experience has been. We have about 30. Okay, Headspace and mental fitness. So please write in the chat if you haven't already about your experiences or about maybe what's my supervisor, an app to have mindfulness at your fingertips. It's the Sharpen platform. Wonderful. I am just really pleased to see how many supervisors and Vistas are really focusing on mindfulness. I just did a training with Vistas and a learning circle of NYC service folks, and they're all into mindfulness as part of their ability to be leaders. I took the quiz and I gave a score of 65%. Oh, and Jessica says, on ending my term, launched a beta. How it's public. Oh, wow. I like that supervisor you've had, Jessica. This is great. That's really great. Delighted to see it. What have been other resources? Please share. She's fabulous. Oh, my goodness. She sounds fabulous. Good for you. That's lovely that you've had that. You spend your free time watching Mr. Rogers. Oh, Helen. Hi, Helen. Delighted to have you. Don't you just love Mr. Rogers? Hi. Talk about someone who, his leadership, I mean, he's been gone so many years, and yet his leadership is still, it's just so needed now more than ever. That's fabulous. Yes, he is certainly an inspiring leader of empathy and compassion. And look at the power that he's had. What a contribution he's made to this world. So that's great to bring him up. Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things Mr. Rogers says, in the Calm app. Oh, these are awesome. Thank you, guys. This is awesome. Calm app. I do have the Calm app, too. Feature for guided breathing, and you can set reminders to simply breathe. And you notice it comes in waves. Okay. Right, let me see. What is the quiz you took, Erica? Okay, I joined the webinar, Lily. Okay, please share, because that would be great if you could share. I just want to make sure I saw everything that everyone has written here. Okay. Yeah, Erica, if you could share any quiz that you, or the one that was up here on the webinar, that would be great. And I'm happy to, I'm going to write my email address in here. If any of you want this slide, or this PowerPoint, I am happy to share it if it's helpful, and you can certainly make it however it is helpful to you. Oh, and what was that? I don't, Hey Group quizzes, yes. I actually am, Erica actually got accredited through Hey Group to use emotional intelligence. So that is an outstanding organization. I would highly recommend that. Okay. And anything else? Let me see here. Oh, here's more stuff. Okay, Headspace, Barack Obama. Okay, absolutely, I agree. Okay, communication principles with some people. Okay, with some people, coworkers, than with family. Yeah, there's certainly, that's certainly appropriate. Now let's see what else came up here. Yeah. So yeah, different, of course, situations between your work and your ability to empathize with family. There's certainly a distinction there, but just looking at anything else, I don't want to make sure. Barack Obama. Who else is an inspiring leader that has? Oh, and Sam says it comes extremely natural. Wonderful. NPL focus. Leaf, thank you so much. Very good. And absolutely, yeah, family relationships are a bit, they can be a bit challenging. So these are wonderful. Thank you so much. So any other thoughts? So what's a takeaway from today? We're almost to the end. What's a takeaway that you might begin to practice? Say just one or two things that you might start. Maybe it's that, well, you know what, I'm going to start reading Daring Greatly, or maybe I'm going to ask some questions of the vistas that I have right here, or maybe, you know, just give me an idea of what you will take away from today. Yeah, okay, thank you. This is very cool. Well, let me know, so what will you begin? I know you're already working on empathy, or you wouldn't have joined this webinar, but I really do appreciate your comments, and especially to each other and the resources you've shared. They've been great. Thank you. And all right. So anything else is... a few more slides here. So again, these resources and the ones we shared are fabulous. Anything Brene Brown has a lot of wonderful things. I do share Mr. Rogers' materials. Greater Good University of California at Berkeley has amazing resources on empathy and okay, imagine yourself flipping on and off an empathy switch also helped. And knowing that there's only okay. Researching emotional boundaries. Yeah, boundaries are, and Sam, it takes practice like any other skill. Just a wonderful conversation. Yeah, the idea of boundaries, I mean, is important. You know, as in all life, balance is really critically important in everything. So if you want to really practice empathy and you say you're asking questions, of course you would ask a question that's respectful, and then you'd be able to observe really carefully if you're helping that person feel comfortable and heard, or if you're making that person start to feel uncomfortable. You know, the person could be very introverted. So you'd be able to sense that. Again, that's part of the dance of empathy, if you will. It does take practice. So thank you for all these comments. They're excellent, and all these resources. So working with emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman is sort of the premier of his stuff is fabulous on emotional intelligence. He's the one that I worked with at the Hay Group in Boston. to be accredited for. It's called the 360 Emotional Intelligence Competencies. It's a 360 assessment. Very, very invaluable. Used it a lot in my trainings. So let's see what else we have here. Oh, here we go. Quote on empathy. Neil deGrasse Tyson, also an amazing leader and inspiring person. And he talks about the criticalness of having empathy be part of the curriculum for children. Just as we're doing, there's a lot of work in mindfulness for children, the idea of empathy is critical. So as you can see here, his words are, humans aren't as good as we should be with our capacity to empathize with feelings and thoughts of others, be they human or other animals on Earth. So part of our formal education should be training in empathy. So wouldn't it be cool if it were reading, writing, arithmetic, and empathy? And that is truly happening in schools now. Of course, it needs to happen all over, but at least we are feeling movement around that in the right direction. So, and don't forget, with the students that have taken off from school, was it yesterday, and marched in the streets, I mean, this is, it's powerful. So as VISTA leaders and VISTA, you all come into this work with such heart. So I know there is a lot of empathy there. I know you will continue to practice it and grow it. I do want to thank you all for all the incredible work that you do. You are the people out there that make the world a better place for all of us. So I do want to thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, ideas, feelings, whatever it is, please say it now in the chat, and then I will turn it over to Copula to do the very brief survey about this webinar. So any other thoughts, comments, any closing remarks? Positive verbal and nonverbal. Yes, absolutely. Nonverbal is critically important as well, Jeff. Absolutely. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments or closing remarks? All right. Well, it doesn't look like there is. Please let me know if you want this slide, this PowerPoint is helpful to you. I'm happy to share it. You have my email address. What I will do now is turn it over to Copula, who will put up a very brief survey. It's about 5 minutes. If you would give us feedback, and I would be delighted. And and then we will let you go. But thank you so much for your work, for your service, for your dedication. And I will leave you in the good hands of Copula, and wish you a very good weekend and safe weekend. Thank you.